Hello and welcome. I am DEJI360. Thanks for joining us on DEJI360 once again. Now, today on the program, what we intend to do is basically to focus on that suspension of Nigeria by FIFA. You're aware Nigeria has now been suspended from all international football competitions until, that's what FIFA says, until the sacked executive committee or the executive board now of the Nigerian Football Federation is reinstated. Now, let me just read, take an excerpt now from the document sent by FIFA communicating that suspension. Now, it says the FIFA emergency meeting or committee has decided today, 9th of July, that's when this communication was released, to suspend the Nigerian Football Federation with immediate effect on account of government interference. Article 13, paragraph 1 and Article 17, paragraph 1 of the FIFA statutes oblige member associations to manage their affairs independently with no influence from a third party. Now, the other part now says the suspension will be lifted once the court actions have been withdrawn and the properly elected NFF Executive Committee, that is the NFF General Assembly and the NFF Administration, are able to work without any interference in their affairs. And so as a result of this going on now, as a result of this decision, no team from Nigeria of any sort, this is talking about the implication now, no team from Nigeria or any sort, including clubs, can have any international sporting contact, and that's according to Article 14, paragraph 3 of the FIFA statutes. Now, during the period of suspension, the NFF may not be represented in any regional, continental, or international competitions, including at club level or in friendly matches. It goes on to add, the most immediate effect is that Nigeria will not be entitled to participate in the upcoming FIFA Under-20 Women Competition, World Cup, which is, of course, scheduled to begin from the 5th to 24th of August 2014. Now, should the suspension not be lifted by the 15th of July 2014. So basically, FIFA saying there that if the suspension is not lifted by July 15th, Nigeria will not be able to take part in that Under-20 competition. Now, today, Nigeria has about less than 5 days now to comply with that if we must take part in that competition. Now, in addition, it goes on to say, in addition, neither the NFF nor any of its member or officials may benefit from any FIFA or CAF development programs, courses, or training during the suspension period. Now, a lot of people will tell you that's quite a very sad one for Nigeria, and that something has to be done to make sure this suspension does not continue. But effectively, as we speak today, Nigeria is actually under the suspension of FIFA. Now, what we're going to try to do is to find out what exactly happened, what actually led to this suspension. And I'm being joined on the program today by a veteran sports journalist, Mr. Tony Ibitoye. Tony, thank you very much for coming on the program. Is this in any way surprising? People say, well, we saw this coming before, because FIFA actually told us, look, we would be sanctioned if something was not done to reverse that court verdict, sacking the entire board members now of the NFF.
Yeah, we saw it coming, and unfortunately, we thought we were going to avoid this at the last minute in our usual style, but we didn't do that, and now the ban has been pronounced. And I'd like to draw your attention to the reality on the ground. The FIFA Emergency Committee took this decision. And maybe you need to ask yourself, who are the members of the FIFA Emergency Committee? The FIFA Emergency Committee is made up of presidents of confederations.
Oh, really?
It's not an ordinary committee. It is made up of presidents of confederations, the confederations that make up FIFA.
Like CAF.
Like CAF, like CONCACAF, like Oceania, like CONMEBOL. I mean, coming together, and the FIFA president himself is the chairman of the emergency committee. It's a serious committee. And for them to have come up with this kind of pronouncement, they refer it to the executive committee for ratification. And you know that everybody is in Brazil for the World Cup, so it's easy for them to come together and hold this kind of meeting. So maybe people do not understand what we're talking about the emergency committee. It's a serious committee made up of heads of confederations, passed on to the executive committee for ratification. So it's a big issue.
But Tony,
for us.
How would you react to suggestions? And most Nigerians have said this, that look, it's not fair for FIFA to ask the government not to interfere when the government is more or less the sole sponsor of the national teams, the sole sponsor of football in this country.
Yeah, good question. Good thinking. Yeah, government spends so much. But I ask myself, where else in the world doesn't government spend money for the national teams when they are going for a World Cup? I mean, your national team is a government property. And we also need to ask ourselves, those people that FIFA is telling the Nigerian government to restore to their positions, are they Brazilians? Are they Chinese? Are they Liberians? Are they not Nigerians? Elected into office by a Congress recognized by FIFA. What FIFA is mainly saying is not that, look, we want to force our laws down your throat all the time. What we are just saying is that association football is governed by rules. And Africa is very peculiar, that government spends a lot in financing the game, and they don't do so much to be able to run the game on their own. And so government wants to come in all the time to make changes. And because of the frequency of changes, a lot of times in the past, FIFA came up with this rule that, look, if you want to remove people, if you want to make a change, just follow our laid down rules and procedures. It's not about Nigeria having any problem with FIFA. It's about Nigeria having problem with itself. That's what I think about all of these issues. So yes, government spends the money. Government has a right to ask questions about how these monies are being spent and how they are not being spent. And if you discover that officials have embezzled money or have misappropriated funds, we have laid down rules in Nigeria to check that. You can investigate. I mean, you can find out. And if anybody is found guilty of breaking rules, you can go ahead and deal with them the way the laws of the land are stipulated. And that will not run foul of FIFA's law. What runs foul of FIFA's law is for you to remove an elected body put in there to run your football, appoint people through government fiat, and break the rules of football in doing things. That is what FIFA will frown out, and that is what we have on our hands right now.
Just give us a sense of the implication of all of this, other than our under-20 female team not being allowed to go for that under-20 tournament. Of course, there must be some other implications. I mean, this must be a very sad news, not just for the under-20, but even generally for football development.
You know, a lot of people, maybe who are not very informed about the situation that we have on our hands, will always say, let's go on a ban for 2 years. What does it make? What difference does it make anyway? Let's ban ourselves. Let's stay off. Probably they don't understand what the consequences are. You've talked about the under-20 girls. The Falcons have a tournament in Namibia, African Women Championship, which is a qualifier for the 2015 FIFA Women's World Cup. Nigeria are defending champions of the Nations Cup. Qualifiers are starting in a few weeks. The under-17 are world champions. Qualifiers are starting in a few days. All of this will be swept off and will be isolated, ostracized from all football if it goes ahead. So that means no football at any level. Our clubs cannot play continental games. Our referees, who will also...
It affects the referees.
Affect referees, affect your players who want to move from club to club. What it means is that you cannot do any kind of business with FIFA.
When you say it affects players, of course it wouldn't affect the professional
ITC,
players.
International Transfer Certificate, comes from the Nigerian Football Federation. If a Nigerian player, for example, wants to move abroad, a player playing on the domestic scene wants to go maybe play in the English Premier League, there should be...
It also affects
everything that has to do with football, including developmental grants that come from FIFA. I mean, we could even push that aside, that government will fund the association if we are isolated from FIFA. But interaction, your best players want to go to the best leagues in Europe, it can't happen because your football association is not to have any contact of any sort. That's what FIFA is saying with the outside world in terms of football. So you are just on your own. Your players can't go abroad. You can't transfer players from the Nigerian clubs to any club in Africa or any club in the world. So the implications are so massive. And when you look at a country like Nigeria and the role that football plays in uniting this nation, you ask yourself, at what expense are we doing all of this? At the expense of the young ones? At the expense of the Iheanachos that we were celebrating a couple of weeks ago? The Awonis, the Isaac Success, the Alampasus that we were celebrating a couple of weeks ago for winning an under-17 World Cup. At what expense? are we putting all of this together? That, I think, is the real issue. I'm pained when I see that politicians take decisions that will affect the lives of the young ones.
Because you talked about politicians, it would appear that we just don't know why this happened. You know, of course, everybody says government is responsible, even though government is denying it, but we know government has a hand in this. But, you know, there've been talk about corruption. Some people have leveled corruption charges against the NFF. Of course, we've not had the government come out to say, look, we decided to remove these guys because of corruption. And of course, even members of the NFF, the original NFF now I should put it, the sacked NFF, have come out to say, look, nothing of that sort. So we want to try to find out exactly what happened. I want you to take a lesson to another sports journalist. Listen to what he says, you know, trying to give us an idea of what might have happened, and when we come back, we'll get your reaction. Let's take a listen to Frankie Laboya, a sports journalist.
Based on what I gathered happened in Brazil, I wasn't in Brazil. From what I gathered from my colleagues, from my network that happened, I think it was very unfortunate. For instance, I gathered that at the peak of the competition, you know, the issue of bonuses raised again, that it took the federal government's intervention for players to even resume training. Before our match against France, you know, there was a day strike by the players. They said they were not going to train until their bonus was paid. I know how important the France match was to us. It was a match that we needed to win, you know, to break the issue of whether to go for the, you know, last 16 or not. But here we are again, the issue of money. So very unfortunate. I took the federal government intervention to resolve that, and the player went to play. Secondly, I was also told that the head of the federal government delegation, you know, David Mark, who is the Senate president, you know, was put in the extension box while the chairman of the federation was in the state box. You know, to me, I think that was a big lead. If it is true, I think it was a big leader on the federal government. Okay, because apart from the fact that he was number 3 man, or he's number 3 man, he's the head of the federal government delegation. That means he's representing 170 million plus Nigerians. So I thought he should have accorded his right of place. You know, if, like I say, if it is true, I think that was very, very wrong. And you can understand, if the government wanted to say, okay, well, we are slighted, I want to put our foot down, which is what I think happened in the issue of removing Aminu Mengere's board. Because from the communique release, they said for the international embarrassment, you know, they didn't, you know, break it down, but I think that was what they were referring to. But again, I thought it should have been done in a more mature manner. Mature manner is saying that the election is just coming up next month. You know, if you don't want anybody, you know, there's a way you can, you know, get him out. But be that is made, I think this is time for us to dear FIFA. Okay? Because I do know, I also do know other countries that, as you know, dear FIFA before, and they got away with it. What are we talking about? We are talking about international embarrassment. If FIFA wants to host any competition, the first person they go to is the government. They want a government guarantee. I don't think FIFA will, you know, tacitly or otherwise support, you know, an administration that also disregard, you know, its federal government. I don't think. So I think that is why I think this time around we have to dear FIFA and tell FIFA exactly what is happening.
Well, you heard Frankie Laboya there. You know, from what he said, it would appear the biggest reason, or the basic reason for the removal of the Aminu Megari faction would seem to be what actually happened in Brazil. You were in Brazil. Tell us about this incident, about the Senate president not being accorded the respect he should have been accorded. You know, that he was made to sit in the state extension box rather than where the FIFA president was sitting, and then the chairman of the NFF was sitting right where in the VVIP box.
Well, that's for me a very little matter that should make us bring down the roof on our football and dismantle all the structures.
As you heard Frank said,
of football. And from what he said, from what Frank said, he wasn't also very sure that was the reason. I've had a lot of reasons myself. I've also heard that the sports minister was disrespected. They referred to him as a small boy and all of that. I've had all those stories myself. I can't prove that those things really happened. And even if they happened, is that enough reason for us to bring a clamp down on football, on the young ones, on the opportunities that they have to improve their career and improve the game? For me, I think these are little personal petty issues that shouldn't generally affect 170 million people and the game they love. But I don't want to dwell too much on that. I want to dwell on the question that you've asked me. What really happened? Clearly not corruption. 2010, remember, we clamped 4 men, Sani Lulu, Bolaji Ojoba, Taiwo Gunjobi, Amazi Uchegbulam. We found all forms of allegations of corruption. They said they owned houses in London, owned houses in South Africa. We put them into prison.
We don't even know what has become of that.
Till today, DG. Sometimes EFCC fails to show up in court. Anytime the case is called, they fail to show up in court, and the case has lingered for 4 years. I mean, just to break it down for you, Ojoba is back in the National Sports Commission as a director. What has happened to those allegations? Sani Lulu is back about his business. Amazi Uchegbulam is back about his business. Taiwo Gunjobi is also back about his business. What has happened to those allegations? Why do we like to accuse people, call a dog a bad name just to hang it? If indeed these guys are guilty and the government is really interested in bringing them to book, it doesn't take 4 years to find a man guilty and then you send him to jail and then you can defend to FIFA that, look, this is what this man did, this is how much we gave him, this was what he did, this is how we misappropriated money, this is how we embezzled money, and then you can dare FIFA that, look, we are punishing corruption in Nigeria and it's not anything personal against the NFF. But then people can defend you.
I mean, you heard Ilaboya there saying we should dare FIFA this time. You know, this international environment.
It amazes me. How do you dare FIFA? Are we the only ones in FIFA? FIFA is a member, is a body of member associations. They didn't force us to join FIFA. We said we want to be a part of what FIFA is doing. That football is a religion in Nigeria. We want to be a part of it. And they said, look, if you want to be a part of us, are you ready to comply with the rules of being a member of FIFA? They didn't force us. And I'm sure that if we want to pull out of FIFA, we are free to do it. But if we want to continue with FIFA and enjoy the privileges of FIFA and the opportunities that they bring, why are you not going to be willing to follow the laid down rules? And again, I come back to the point. These guys that FIFA said reinstate, are they from Switzerland? Are they from Germany? Are they from Brazil? Are they not Nigerians elected into office? Are they not the same Nigerians that 6 times Mr. President has come out to commend openly after they won the Nations Cup, after the Under-17 won the World Cup, after our girls won the African Women's Championship? 6 times Mr. President has hosted footballers and rewarded them for excellence.
And that's quite true.
How do you correlate all of this, DG, in 1 month of whatever they must have done in Brazil? How does it translate into now wanting to chase this guy out? And Elaboya said something that I think is also very instructive. There are better, smarter, neater ways.
We're going to talk about those ways now. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll take a short break now. When we come back, we'll talk about what exactly can be done to resolve all of this. Stay with us, don't go away. Every day, every hour, and every minute, news break in Nigeria. Things happen so fast, it's most times difficult to track and comprehend them. But that's what we do right here on DEJI360. 2015, would you want to come back again?
It's like asking Jesus Christ if he knew he was going to die, will you want to come back as the savior of the world again?
We do not just help you track the stories, we break them down, explore all the angles, analyze the issues so that you can fully comprehend the stories and use them to make the right decisions. Welcome back. Now, we want to look at how to resolve all of this. And as you're aware, the Nigerian government has said there's nothing it can do because the decision to sack the NFF Executive Committee was taken by a court. And so that was a court order, so the federal government cannot disobey a court order. Now, we asked a lawyer if there's any way to resolve this through the court. Listen to what the lawyer said.
The people that went to court know how they went to court, so let them go back to the same court and then undo what they did in court. It's not casted in stone. The court had given order. The court can vacate the said order, even if, as it is, let's assume that that order granted, and then the other party can come if the order was obtained by fraud or even obtained on fact that were not disclosed to the court. The court can vacate similar such order, and so it's even easy, for them to come up. Even the Megari faction can say, well, we're not even aware, processes were not served, because service even confers jurisdiction. And so when the court lacks jurisdiction to even hear the matter, you basically, you know, the order goes to nullity. And so there are ways you can still go about it. It's not casted in stone. And so
I tell you, we just had the lawyer there saying that, look, the best way to resolve this is to vacate that court order, because most people would say they can't see FIFA changing its mind if that court order is not reversed.
I mean, that's a lawyer. I mean, and he knows exactly what he's talking about. And you ask yourself, that court order was also disobeyed almost immediately, because the court order also said there shouldn't be anybody parading itself as a Congress.
And the federal government appointing someone to...
And the federal government appointing someone and
that person
called the Congress. So, I mean, we know all of these things. But just to summarize, as you have said, it's a case of, will FIFA blink? Will it be the federal government that will blink? By the time our girls are out of the Under-20 World Cup and we feel the backlash, Under-17 boys are out of the Under-17 World Cup, and it's knocking on the door that we could be out of the Nations Cup in 2015, something will give.
How else do you think the government could have handled this? Because people have said, and quite rightly to some extent, that, look, the government was just hasty in its decision.
There are better ways of doing this, DG. This is not the first time we're having this. Very easy. Call these guys together. The key men that you want to deal with, call
Especially
them
when
together.
you know the federal government has enormous influence anyway.
I mean, I've been told that maybe the president doesn't want them anymore. No problem about that, because government finances football. Government can decide who they want in charge of our football. Very simple. Call these guys together, the key men, and tell them the federal government said, you've done enough, we don't want you anymore. Are you guys going to resign honorably, or you want to wait till your Congress to be voted out? Simple. And it will be clean, clear, without infringing on the rights of FIFA. That, for me, I feel should have been a better way out, instead of just drawing down the roof and putting everybody in this present situation.
Well, because you talked about, you know, whether it is the federal government that will blink in this case or FIFA, I want you to take a listen to this loud soundbite now, and immediately after I'd give me your reaction. Take a listen to it.
Based on what I know at this moment, I don't know, because things are dynamic. Based I know that federal government will not reverse it. I can tell you that.
You mean federal government will not reverse? Yes. And FIFA will lift the suspension eventually?
I can tell you that. Just take my word for that. Based on what I know at this moment. I don't talk about tomorrow, but at this moment.
That's quite surprising.
Yes, it's surprising because, like I said, there are some issues. I'm a journalist, though I don't want to be, you know, front for the government. I mean, I'm not the spokesman, but I do know that from the, you know, things I'm privy to, that it might be so difficult for the federal government, to reverse their decision. It might be so difficult.
Well, saying from information, and you know, we journalists, we know so much, and you know, he has some kind of information most of us may not have, which is quite true, that journalists know so much. And he says, based on what he knows, based on the information he's privy to, the federal government may not reverse.
I'm not privy to what Frank Laboya is privy to. It will be interesting for me to see how things will stay the way they are, and FIFA will reverse all it has said about that Annual General Assembly has been null and void, and reverse the ban. It's going to be interesting for me to see. I'll be interested in seeing this ban lifted. I want to see how it will happen if government doesn't change the present position.
And it would appear that would seem to confirm the fact that, look, government is involved in this.
Clearly. I mean, he was saying it, that government will not change the present position. Let's see. It's an interesting setup.
Because it would have been more interesting to see the court would not change its mind, and not government.
And not government.
Well, thank you very much for coming on the program. We really appreciate you for coming, spend time with us, and for your wonderful contributions. Thank you so very much.
Always a pleasure, DG.
Well, that's it on the program. We thank you very much for watching, and if you want to watch it, it's very simple. All you just need to do is go to our website. The website address is right there on your screen, www.tv360nigeria.com, and you'll get a lot more. We're also on YouTube. You can watch us there by subscribing to our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/TV360 Nigeria. You can also follow us on Google Plus at TV360 Nigeria, or just like us on Facebook. The address is facebook.com/TV360 online. You can also follow us on Twitter. Our handle is at TV360 online. Again, thanks for watching. We're back again next week. See you then.